I mentioned, and I've been talking about my friend Olga Sagan, and I call her a friend. She's been on the show so many times. She runs Proshki in Seattle, which is a very popular Seattle bakery, and she's been vocal. Even when it's hard for business owners to speak out about the just disaster downtown, she has spoken out about it. And so I was happy when she announced she was going to run for Seattle City Council to try to take Andrew Lewis's job, which now is probably a little bit easier than it was a few days ago. But I was also alerted a couple weeks ago that there's a Seattle police officer who's also running for that seat. His name is Aaron Marshall, and I think it was good timing given the vote yesterday to have him on the show to talk about not only the vote that happened yesterday and from his perspective as a police officer, the public safety ramifications of that, but also what he would bring to the job as a member of the Seattle City Council. Aaron Marshall, welcome to Undivided.
Thank you for having me, Brandi.
So you have just an interesting life trajectory. You were like a high-end bartender before you became a cop?
Teeny Biggs, first in Denny.
I know Teeny Biggs.
Yeah, and then right after Teeny Biggs, Peso's Taco Lounge. So
you probably served me drinks before. I spent many an inebriated evening at Peso's.
Brandi, I'm not going to tell any stories on your podcast.
Oh, okay, good. Peso's got wild sometimes, man. That was a totally different story. But why'd you decide to become a cop?
Well, I joke that between the Marine Corps when I was 19 years old and being a bartender, it basically set me up for being a police officer. Those two things were the best education that a police officer could probably get. I don't know how you bottle that up and make it accessible for everybody, but it really worked for me. It's a matter of just, being able to read people and speak with people, but also, setting some limits for people as well.
Just practically speaking, are there any restrictions because of your job for running for city council? Because there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, it's a unique experience running for city council as a Seattle police officer. I'm certainly limited to some of the things that I can speak about and some of the things I cannot speak about at this point. I've talked to the command staff, and we're at the understanding that right now in the primaries, I'm going to keep it just about being a citizen of Seattle. I've lived here over 20 years. I know this district probably better than anybody that I've ever met in this district, just because I've lived here so long and I'm such a social person. I go out so often and meet businesses and, the people of my community. I will keep the law enforcement side a little bit more conservative now. And then if I make it through the primary, which I plan on doing, I do have some strong opinions about public safety and our police department. It's a wonderful place. I have had almost nothing but great things to say about the Seattle Police Department. But working there, like any institution, you have some criticism. Do you have some things that I think we could do better, that I would like to implement? And, it would be really great to have somebody on the city council who understands public safety, who understands the police department, the fire department, how things actually work versus these platitudes of other candidates and how they think things work. So, for now, as long as I'm not talking about tactics or certain cases, I'm free to talk about most anything in the police department.
I guess I was more so curious, can you keep your job as a cop with SPD if you get elected?
No, it's a full-time gig. City council is. So what will happen is if I make it through the primaries, depending on who my opponent is, I'll probably take a leave of absence, take August, September, October off to concentrate full-time on the campaign. Right now, I'm working full-time as a police officer. It is not uncommon for us right now to have 10, 20, 30 hours of overtime in a week. I've scaled back just a little bit because obviously I have a lot going on right now running for District 7. But with that being said, I'm working full-time, doing the police work Wednesday through Saturday, and then I'm doing campaigning Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays. I'm off to work this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Going forward, depending on who makes it through the primary, if it's Olga and I'll probably still continue being a police officer. I think Olga's campaign and I can come down to a real adult conversation and have the important things said that need to be said without both of us dedicating our entire lives, businesses, and the taxpayers' donations to a campaign. Now, if it's Andrew Lewis and I'm going to take that very seriously because he has $93,000 that has been donated to him already. So that's a serious proposition. And regardless of his policies, that's a fair amount of money to contend with.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just kind of curious about how all of that works with someone who is actively a city employee. It's interesting. I don't meet a lot of Seattle police officers who still choose to live in the city. Are you patrolling downtown, or what is your beat? What is your assignment?
Oh, I'm a unicorn, that's for sure. When I first got hired, I lived in downtown. I lived in Queen Anne, and everybody said, listen, kid, get out of here. Just move anywhere else. Don't live in downtown. And so I actually worked the beat that I lived in, which is called Queen 3, Lower Queen Anne. I moved on from there to downtown Seattle, and I spent 3 years in patrol all through downtown Seattle. I moved into downtown Seattle. Not to give out too many secrets, but I live within walking distance of the West Precinct. Um, in about my third year on, I became a member of the West Precinct's anti-crime team, which is a street level narcotics and warrant team. We deal with everything from prostitution to violent crimes, but it's all at the street level. The reason I have a beard is because I like to fit into my community around here. So some people know I'm a police officer, but a lot of people don't. So we've been reimagined by the Seattle Police Department as the Community Response Group now. We're a larger entity of about 20 officers, 5 sergeants, and a lieutenant. And now we are citywide, but we deal with the most prolific issues of downtown Seattle, narcotics being number one, prostitution, warrant service, violent crimes. We just served a internet crimes against children warrant yesterday morning. So we're a very diverse, almost the Swiss Army knife of Seattle.
Yeah, good way to put it. And yes, a beard will help you fit in anywhere in Seattle. This race has taken on a new meaning, I think, after the vote this week with the decision, especially by Andrew Lewis, which I guess I could believe it, but with his decision not to have a law for the city attorney to be able to enforce. From your just experience down there, react to that decision by Andrew Lewis and the other council members who voted with him.
It's tragic. I don't know a single first responder that doesn't have compassion for this subject. It's insulting to think that we just want this law so we can arrest users and people that are possessing. We realize that it is a disease, that it is more common to having a burn patient than somebody who maybe gets cancer. A burn patient needs a certain amount of treatment. They need things to happen, or that burn will become more infected and they could die from that. We basically have legalized people and allowed them to die on our streets without any assistance. Our OD calls now, if you listen to any police scanner, are on the hour, multiple times per hour. It is an overwhelming prospect. And to take this tool away from police officers is a real miscarriage of justice. I think that move shows how much of a windsock Andrew Lewis is. Whatever prevailing winds go, if a few people show up to city council, he will absolutely change course on a lickety split and become whatever they need in front of them. And I've seen it over 4 years, and it's one of the reasons I'm running. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired of watching this city council make the decisions they've made.
Yeah. Well, how do you take, I think there's a lot of momentum after that vote. I mean, I see the business community all of a sudden, behind the scenes, I hear these rumors that they were going to coalesce around him because, they thought he'd learned his lesson. And then I saw hands off Andrew Lewis, he's persona non grata after that vote. So how do you, as a relative unknown, try to, I hate to use the word capitalize, but it is capitalize off of his error?
Well, I've really reached out in the last 24 hours to a lot of different entities that were supporting him before. I think that people are looking to take your moniker and mine as well. My campaign slogan is an independent voice for common sense change. And I think people are really, really thirsting for that right now. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I have a long voting record that goes back to being 18 years old, but I've really gone out and talked to folks and told them, how the sausage is made by being a police officer. I'll tell them what works and what doesn't work. I can usually tell within a month of a program starting whether or not it's going to be effective or not, because I actually see the metrics firsthand. I'm out on the street every single day that I'm working, and even days that I'm not working. I love going out for dinners. I pretty much go out for dinner almost every single night that I'm not working. So I see the streets firsthand, and I know my district. And I think that I'm capitalizing by the fact that I can go out and touch base with all of these business owners, all of the people in Seattle that are really, they want something done. The fact of doing nothing is not an option anymore. And I think that's what the city council has decided, this lame duck city council that we have right now, that basically is thumbing, their disgust at the citizens of Seattle by voting this way. So all of these candidates, they don't have to live here. They're going to go off to their houses in different areas, but they're going to just leave downtown to deteriorate the way it has.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's you know this that I have a history with Olga Sagan. We've had her on the
Yeah.
show many times. I contributed to her campaign. I didn't know you were running, by the way. I didn't know there was an SPD officer running, and the Seattle Police Officer Guild president let me know about it at an event last week. And honestly, if it's not Andrew Lewis, I'm happy. And so, I absolutely wish you all the best on the campaign trail as you try to, get some momentum behind your campaign. I want to end with this because you said something in your announcement that really struck me, because it's a simple thing, but talking about, and I'm sure it goes back to some of your experience as a bartender, improving the nightlife. When
Yeah.
I first moved to Seattle 13 years ago, I went downtown at night all the time. Me and my friends, we went to Pike, Post Alley and Pike Place Market. We went out at night and we felt safe doing it. I would not feel safe doing that with my girlfriends now. For someone who's lived down there for so long, if we fast forward 5 years, what's your vision for what Seattle could and should be 5 years from now?
Brandi, I'm so glad you asked that, because being a police officer, I get probably 80%, 90% of my questions are public safety based, which I completely understand. It's the first and most important thing we need to deal with. However, I was a bartender longer than I have been a cop. And I really love nightlife in downtown Seattle. And I don't like the idea of going back to something. Yes, the 90s and early 2000s were a lot of fun. I totally agree, and I was part of that. But we have a real opportunity here as a city, as a district of District 7, to really decide what we want downtown Seattle to look like. It is an opportunity. It's a tragic opportunity, but it's still an opportunity nonetheless of envisioning something that we can all really enjoy. So, for example, Amazon is the 900-pound gorilla that lives here now. It is what it is. I have strong opinions about Amazon, but I want to embrace the fact that we have a lot of tech workers in downtown Seattle that don't seem to be going out at night. Now, part of that, I think, is due to public safety. They just don't feel safe going out at night, and I completely get that. But what is it that we can provide them? What is it that we can offer them that really that makes them excited about going out, whether it be restaurants, art, culture, music? I want that for downtown Seattle. I think it will be a tremendous failure of downtown Seattle if I see an Applebee's open up on 3rd Avenue. I want it to be local. I want that young chef right now who's working their tail off in a restaurant to want to open that restaurant on the 1500 block of 3rd Avenue. I know that sounds absurd right now, seeing the state of 3rd Avenue, but that's what I envision, is this really eclectic, great mix of different socioeconomic groups that can go into downtown Seattle and have a great time. I think, one of the things that we don't have on the West Coast that they do have on the East Coast is this real sense of ownership of your town. I've never been to Boston, but I can guarantee you talk to somebody from Boston, they'll tell you they're from Boston and everything that's great about Boston. And I want that to be Seattle. I want people to be very proud of their city again. And I want to bring it back to a state that feels safe and open to the idea of new businesses being created in downtown Seattle. That's my vision. And I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen.
Well, I think that's great. I'll disagree with you on one thing. Given the number of vacant storefronts on 3rd Avenue, I'd welcome an Applebee's. Hey, they got a good cheap happy hour. I'd rather take an Applebee's than a vacant storefront.
Brandi, that's almost 50-50 on that. I really don't
Hey, I'm
not
from the
a big
Midwest.
corporate
Don't hate on
restaurant guy.
Applebee's.
Yeah.
Don't hate on Applebee's. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, we'll disagree on that. Aaron Marshall, good luck to you. Look, if you can take out Andrew Lewis, by all means, Godspeed. And thank you for your service to the city. Not only in my early days, you probably poured me a few drinks, but also, obviously, in your service as a police officer. We do appreciate it. We know how difficult that job is right now.
Brandi, thank you for having me.
So that is Aaron Marshall, a Seattle police officer, resident of downtown, candidate for the 7th District seat for the Seattle City Council, which is the seat currently held by Andrew Lewis downtown, and apparently a hater of Applebee's. Man, just bougie. That's okay. Hey, look, is Applebee's my first choice? No. But I'd rather have Applebee's than the vacant storefronts, as I told him. But look, I think there are some good options for candidates to replace Andrew Lewis. As I said on the show yesterday, the business community shouldn't give him another dime. Not a dime, not a freaking dime after defunding, after this. And you have other options as a business community for people who actually want it to be safe and welcoming and fun downtown again. It's just a no-brainer.